Yo soy watashi wa nanun igosum. I am Chris and this is Chris in English. And I'm glad to be here with you guys today. Happy Wednesday. Wednesday, of course, means we're halfway done. We made it halfway through our week. Get through this and it's downhill all the way into the weekend. I hope everybody's doing well. I have a question for you. It's our question of the day. I want to know, do you like to vote? Smiley. Hello, Smiley. I'm so glad to see you today. I hope you're doing well. Question of the day. Do you like to vote? Hello, Bob Wiley. Good to see you too. Do you like to? I love to vote. My first election was 1988. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. I will tell you that all of my people lost. I was an idealist and I voted as an idealist and all my people lost. But that's okay, because I love voting, and that's our question of the day. Do you like to vote? We'll talk about that as we get through our day. What are we going to do today? Well, I'm going to, of course, give you some tips to practice English. Today we're going to talk about English listening. Good morning, Dad. I hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about English listening. How can you practice English listening? When you're alone, when you're by yourself, when you don't have a teacher, what can you do to improve your listening skills? And today we're going to talk about a very important law in the United States. Yes, 100 years ago, this week, depending on who you ask, Sindri, good to see you. 100 years ago this week, in the United States, women were given the right to vote. Yes, it's the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and we'll be talking about that today and what it means. And, of course, I'll give you your word of the day, and we'll do our San Diego coronavirus update, and all of the other fun stuff. We'll get to talk about whatever you want at the end. Speaking of talking about whatever you want, how are you guys doing? Anybody out there having a good adventure? Anybody out there planning a great day? Mr. Nemo, good to see you, sir. Our question of the day today. Do you like to vote? I love to vote. I don't remember, Nemo, if you were in my class during an election. Often during elections, I will bring the little I voted stickers and share them with my students. I don't know if you got one of those. I don't remember if you were in my class during an election. I think maybe you were. I'm not sure. Either way, here's a cup of coffee drink to you. And that's good coffee today. Thank you. This is my Stormtrooper cup, one of two actually. This one was a student from a very good friend, Svenja, from, I want to say Switzerland. I hope Svenja, I hope I got that right, Svenja, that you're from Switzerland. But I use it every day, and I think about her every time I use it. Oh, poor Nemo, he did not get the I voted sticker. Nemo, I owe you a sticker. I owe you an I voted sticker. You need to come back to San Diego so I can give it to you, and then we can have tacos. Let's see, Smiley saying, glad to see you. It's been a long time. And we'll catch up soon from Japan. I hope so, Sindri. I hope so. Oh, I mean, Smiley. I hope we can catch up. I hope you can come to San Diego, or that I can go to Japan and eat that delicious okonomiyaki, my favorite Japanese food. Love that okonomiyaki. I agree, Mr. Nemo. I'll see you soon. Taco Tuesday is in 1 week. So, get planning. All right, here it is, my friends. I know what you're waiting for. It's everybody's favorite part. It's our word of the day. And I'm thinking really hard to try to give you guys a hint or a clue. But there's nothing entering my mind. Uh-oh. Did I actually give a clue, a hint to our word of the day? Entering the mind? Our word of the day today is, I love this word. I love this word. It's not a common word. It's an uncommon word, but it's a useful word, and I'll show you why. I will show you why. Our word of the day today is ingress. Ingress is a noun. It can be used as a verb. I've heard it used as a verb. But today, we're going to use it as a noun. And ingress, it means movement into something. An entrance. Movement into something or an entrance. It's an ingress. Let me give you that spelling. I-N-G-R-E-S-S. Ingress. Movement into something. Here's a sentence for you. The ingress into the parking garage was full of cars waiting to get in. The ingress into the parking garage was full of cars waiting to get in. And this is a true story. This is a true story. About a year and a half ago, I took a trip to Los Angeles to the garment district. Just to look around, do some shopping, spend a day in LA. Right? It was a good day, too. But when we got to the garment district, we got to the street we wanted to get on, we got to the parking garage that we had planned to park in, and there was a line of cars waiting to get into the parking lot. So the ingress, the entrance, the place where you can move into the garage was full. Ingress. His ingress into our conversation was not welcome. Have you ever been talking to someone, having a conversation with someone, and a third person tries to come in and be a part of your conversation? They try to ingress into your conversation. Don't let them do that. Don't let them. You deserve to have your conversation with your friend. Ingress. So it doesn't have to be a physical movement into. It can be metaphysical, like moving into a conversation. Movement is the important part of this word. Because think about this. This is the interesting part to me about the word ingress. G-R-E-S-S, the gress part of ingress, is in a lot of other words. For example, progress. Progress, to move forward. Regress. Regress, to move backwards. So gress, we can't use it by itself. We can't just say, hey, I gressed today. But gress, when we use it with a prefix, talks about movement. Hey, not only did we get a word of the day, but we got a word concept of the day. Roots and prefixes. That's your word of the day. Ingress, movement into something, an entrance. I-N-G-R-E-S-S. Can you give me your word using our word of the day? Ingress, movement into. I know a lot of you, as English students, and sometimes I try to give you tips for practicing your English, especially now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You can't go to school. You can't meet people to speak English. How do you practice your English alone? Well, yesterday we talked about a few tips for practicing your English alone. Today we're going to talk about practicing your listening skills specifically, and I think I have a little bit of a plan for you to try if you want to practice your listening skills. Here's my tip for you. Find a podcast that you really like, or if you don't like podcasts, if you prefer video, find a YouTube video that's really interesting to you, a topic that's really interesting to you. Doesn't matter what the topic is. It should be about 15 minutes long. Should be about, hey, I'm getting the sentence here. Let's see, we got Nemo. He's sharing his sentence with the word of the day. Let's see what it says. I was in a line and completely out of the blue, someone ingressed in front of me? What? Why did you let them do that, Nemo? No, you are a human being of worth and dignity. Nobody can just ingress in front of you in the line. Randy is here. Good to see you, Mr. Randy. I hope you're doing well today. Our word of the day today is ingress. To move into. It's a noun. Movement into something. An entrance. Nemo saying he was in line and completely out of the blue. Someone ingressed in front of him. And then, Nemo, did you ingress your fist into their face? I hope not. That's not a good thing to do, Nemo. That's not a good thing. But very good sentence. Excellent. How to improve your listening skill. Oh, very good. Nemo's from Switzerland. In case you don't know, he has the big Swiss Army knife. Yeah, if somebody ingresses in line in front of him, he takes his Swiss Army knife and he tries to file them. I guess he tries to file them. I don't know. Or maybe he tries to open them. No? I don't know. What do you do with your big Swiss Army knife, Nemo? I don't know. Oh, open the bottle? You'll open him like a bottle? No, I don't know. I'll put this here for later. Find yourself a podcast. Find yourself a video about 15 minutes long. Doesn't have to be longer, but it shouldn't be much shorter because we want words. We want lots of words. We're practicing our listening. Listen to the same podcast every day for 1 week, for 7 days, every day for 1 week. And this is what's going to happen. This is what you'll find happening. The first time you listen to it, you'll probably understand it okay, but you will miss a lot of the information, and that's to be expected. Believe it or not, when a native English speaker listens to a podcast or watches a video, we don't capture all of the words coming at us. Really what we're doing, we're listening for the main ideas. We're listening for the detailed information. And then if something piques our interest, catches our ear, then we'll do some focused listening to try to get more information. So, first, you might not understand everything in the podcast, and that's okay and expected. But after a day or two, you'll find that you're just naturally going to understand more. And what will really stick out is what you don't understand. That new vocabulary, or those new phrases, or those new concepts. Those are the things that you'll start noticing next. And that's good. That's what's supposed to happen. When you start hearing those words, you understand most of what you're hearing in the podcast. You understand most of what you're hearing in the video, but you'll still catch words. I don't know what that means. What is that word? What does it mean? That's good. You can look those words up. That's active learning. You can also actively learn by examining the new vocabulary in the context of the story. Because you're listening to the story more than once, you're listening to the story every day for a week, you're building context around the new vocabulary, which will help you understand it better. Yeah. Finally, on the last day, day 7, after you listen to it, tell yourself the story. And don't just do it in your head. Take your phone. You're on your phone right now. I know you know how to use your phone. You're watching me on your phone. Probably. Record yourself telling the story and then play that back. Listen to yourself. Did you get the details? Do you hear yourself saying all of the things you remember from the story? Are you using your new vocabulary that you learned from the story? 7 days to improving your listening. 7 days to building your vocabulary. 7 days of improving your English all by yourself. All on your own, without a speaking partner, without a teacher. You can still do it. And I hope you do. If you have questions or problems, you can always get in touch with me, Chris at ChrisinEnglish.com, or visit the website, ChrisinEnglish.com, or check out one of the videos, or at the website, check out one of the grammar lessons. You can do it. Here's a quote from 1920. 100 years ago. Here's a quote. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. What does this mean? The short version of this, it means women in the United States are allowed to vote. And the quote I just read is from the 19th Amendment of the United States Constitution. The Constitution, in case you don't know, is the highest law of the United States. Every other law in the United States must fit the Constitution. It must match the Constitution. It cannot go beyond the Constitution. It's our highest law. And until 1920, there was nothing in America's highest law guaranteeing women the right to vote. When Europeans first came to the United States, they created colonies. And in these colonies, believe it or not, I found this out and was surprised, many women had the right to vote. It was not until after the American Revolution, when these colonies became states and became a country, it wasn't until then that women were not allowed to vote. Mighty Mr. Mo! Good to see you, sir! Welcome to the show, Mr. Mo! I'm glad to see you. I hope you're doing well. We're talking about the woman's right to vote in the United States, because the law allowing women to vote in the United States is exactly 100 years old. Maybe 100 years old this week, maybe 100 years old today, depending on how you're counting. We'll talk a little bit about that. In 1848, before the American Civil War, while there was still slavery in the United States, there was a group of people called abolitionists who were trying to get rid of slavery. And many of these abolitionists were women. So at the same time they were trying to get rid of slavery, they were also working very hard to ensure women had the right to vote. There are some important names for these women who were working so hard for equal rights in my country. Some of the names you should know when you're talking about the right to vote: Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. They were the mothers of the suffragist movement. They started a convention in Seneca Falls, New York in 1848, in which they decided that they thought women should have the right to vote. 1848 is when this idea first came up. They wrote letters, they petitioned, but honestly, not much came from it then. And then there was war. The American Civil War. And honestly, there was not much done for women's rights to vote during the American Civil War. For obvious reasons, there was a war. A lot of things got put on the back burner that probably should not have been. But for that period of time, there was not a lot of work done for women's suffrage. And in fact, it wasn't until 1918. Oh, I forgot a name. I'm so sorry. Another very important woman, Susan B. Anthony, joined Elizabeth Stanton and Lucretia Mott later. And I want to make sure we mention Susan B. Anthony because she's probably the biggest name that we think of in the United States when it comes to the right of women to vote, women's suffrage. So important was Susan B. Anthony that she became the first woman on American money. Yeah. Back in the late 1970s, I want to say it was 79, we created the Susan B. Anthony dollar. It was a gold-colored coin with the picture of Susan B. Anthony, honoring her for her work in giving women the right to vote. You can still find some of these Susan B. Anthony dollars if you look really hard. If you go to a bank and ask very nicely, you can probably find a Susan B. Anthony. They're not really in circulation anymore. One of the problems was they were the exact same size as a quarter. And a lot of people ended up buying a 25-cent candy bar for $1. So, but now we're in 1918, and the not the Equal Rights Amendment, that's a totally different story that we'll get to at some point. The 19th Amendment for the right of women to vote, 1918, it was passed by the House of Representatives. That's the first step to getting a constitutional law. It has to pass the House of Representatives and the Senate. Well, in 1918, it passed the House of Representatives. It did not pass the Senate. In 1919, the Senate held another vote. And this time, it also did not pass. By one vote. Let's see, Nemo's asking me a question. He says, is it true that in the United States there are $2 banknotes? Yes, Nemo, it's true. In the United States, we have a $2 bill, and it's actually a really cool piece of money. On one side of it, the person's face, I want to say it's Thomas Jefferson. Same person who's on the nickel, the 5-cent coin. One of my favorite presidents. On the other side is a very famous picture, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. $2 bills are rare, but they're pretty easy to find. Again, if you go to your bank and if you give them $2, they'll give you a $2 bill. You just have to ask. You can find them. Many people collect them, but just for fun, because they're worth, what, $2? So yes, Nemo, there is a $2 bill here in the United States. 1919, the Senate voted again, and yeah, women's right to vote failed by one vote. One vote. But at this point, the president at the time, Woodrow Wilson, became involved. Now, interestingly, President Woodrow Wilson originally was against a woman's right to vote. He was against it. But at this time, in 1919, he had changed his position. He was in favor of the 19th Amendment. He was in favor of a woman's right to vote. And so he did something that the president has the power to do, but doesn't often do. He called Congress. He called Congress back. People in Congress, they went on vacation. Very often in August, Congress goes on vacation, as though the government shuts down, as though the country stops working in August. I don't understand. But the President of the United States has the right and the power to call Congress back to Washington, D.C. to do their job if they're needed. So, he called a special session of Congress. President Woodrow Wilson called a special session of Congress and urged them, please, please pass the amendment. Many states ratified the amendment. That's the third step. First, the House of Representatives has to pass it. Then, the Senate has to pass it. Then, the states have to pass it. 2/3 of the states have to pass it. And by March of 1920, 35 states had successfully passed the amendment. Only one more state was needed to make this law. It came down to the state of Tennessee. Tennessee was split. It was a tie. Half of the government in the state of Tennessee thought women should have the right to vote. Half of the government of the state of Tennessee thought women should not have the right to vote. And then there was this man from Tennessee named Harry Byrne. He was part of the Tennessee government, and so he had the opportunity to vote for or against a woman's right to vote. And he was against it. He did not believe that women should have the right to vote. Harry Byrne was against women voting. But Harry had a mom. Harry's mom wrote him a letter that was delivered from Tennessee to Washington. And it said, Harry, don't forget to be a good boy and help pass the amendment. Harry got a letter from his mom. His mom told him. And that's the power of mom. And that's the power of women. And that's the power of equality. And that is something that has made my country better in the last 100 years. The more people who vote, the more people who have a voice in the decisions that are being made, we get more brain power for solving the decisions. We have more people who accept the decisions that are being made because they've participated. Voting is a good thing. I am happy that I get to vote. I'm looking forward to voting this November in the presidential race here in the United States. I am a black man in America, and black men have not always been allowed to vote either. We'll talk about the 15th and 16th Amendment, 14th and 15th Amendments at another time. Right now, I'll tell you this quote again. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. Do you like to vote? I love to vote. But that's our question of the day. Do you like to vote? Do you remember your first election? I do. I remember my first election was a midterm election. I remember my first presidential election. That would have been 1988. Dukakis versus Bush. And George Herbert Walker Bush won. A couple of years later, a couple of elections later, his son won. The rest is history. Literally. All right, my friends, it looks like that's our show. It looks like I got lost in my video, but that's okay. Let's see if I can find it really quickly. I want you to know that I will be back here tomorrow, Thursday. We'll do this all again. I want you to know that on Friday, we'll have our Friday Fun Day. We'll do some riddles and some word games and some other playing things. Meanwhile, please check out my new blog post. It's about American food. And what is American food exactly? Please check out the website. Lots of fun stuff to do there. And if you missed this, I don't know how you're going to miss this video and hear me say that you can watch it later on YouTube. But in case you missed this video and you can still hear me say this, watch this video on YouTube. Please remember, you are a great class. I'm glad to have you in my life. My name is Chris. I love you all. Go away.